when we say the word Kaizen, it really came from our first learnings, which was, gosh, maybe 25 years ago. We had some people come in and teach us the 7 ways, and I begged them to take us to Japan. And one of those gentlemen, his name is Brad Schmidt, and another guy is John Miller. And so when we went to Japan, we never heard anybody say the word lean manufacturing. All we heard on many trips to Japan was Kaizen, Kaizen, Kaizen. So we then decided that we should do this because it seemed pretty evident that developing deep problem-solving skills would be a really good thing for growing ourselves, but also our people. And so today we're going to focus. I think we're in the series that we have of problem solving. We'll talk about Kaizen, and that's something that we've basically made ourselves modeled after the Toyota A3 process. So if you want to research Toyota A3, there's plenty of information out there, but it's basically a big piece of paper. And so I tried to do an A3, read a book or two, and the piece of paper was huge. It was like, yeah, it's 11 by 17. And I freaked out. I just couldn't do it. So then we cut it in half, made it 8.5 by 11. I freaked out again. And then we ended up with this little tiny form that we use. So we will be going into that and doing a little role playing, and we'll share the form at the end. But we don't want to have you focus so much on the form because it's really about relationship, about growing one another, and about really developing a conversation around making life a little better. So what we really want to do, though, is right now go into the why behind Kaizen. There's a number of videos out there. One by Katie Anderson. She's kind of famous in this world of lean, and a friend of Mark Rosenthal. She does a great job of teaching Kaizen, and she learned from the same guy I did. We're going to kind of go through a little bit of that because we go a little bit deeper, and I want to make sure that each of you have a real clear idea of what we mean. So when we say Kaizen, we don't mean 5-day batch improvement event. We mean solve a little bit of a problem. And and you'll get to see a little bit of that. But we let's first talk about the word Kaizen. And I have no ability to make the characters, but the characters are basically shapes that represent something. So Kaizen really is made up of 2 parts. And the first part is the idea of self. So this would be the change part. Change, and then good. So Kaizen means change good. And this first one is made up of the character of self, but also added to the character of whipping. So it's the idea of self and whipping. So think of a little guy with a whip. There's a word that comes to mind, and if anybody be willing to guess, but hey, when you see somebody whipping themselves, they're not whipping other people. Please use the chat box to say, hey, what word comes to mind when I say self and whipping? And all of you, if you're willing to type, and we'll see what pops up.
Eric said, so some flagellation.
Maybe not.
Billy and Robert said discipline. So that's good.
Discipline, pain. Yeah. Self-discipline. Yeah. Really good. Really good. Awesome. Discipline. Really great. So the first thing we want to talk about today is this word discipline. And hopefully I spelled it right. So self-whipping, so change. So this is very much an interesting word to us, discipline. And I don't need you to respond to the chat or vocally, but is discipline that we all really love, or is it something that we're sometimes annoyed by? So that's the first question. And then the next question might be, is it necessary? So I think we only have adults online on this Zoom call, and maybe probably only the people that will watch this on YouTube later. Is discipline required in order for you to be you, successful at whatever your endeavor is, whether it's work, sport, family? So the question we'll have you go in and talk about is, hey, did you come out of the womb disciplined, or did you learn it from somebody? So Tucker will take it from here. Yeah.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. So real quick, before we move on, it'd be really awesome if I had 1 or 2 brave people who wanted to share kind of what they reflected on and what thoughts came to mind. And then everyone else who maybe is too scared to talk to a bunch of people, or just want to share via the chat, we'd love to know the answer about the primary motivator. Was it for love or for money? So we'll give a couple minutes if anyone wants to just unmute and just go for it. The floor is yours.
We were pretty in unison that parents, there was one individual who wasn't, but we're all in unison that it was out of love and not money.
Really cool. Really neat. Yes, you gotta no money in the chat. All right, Jeff, take it away. What's the next character? What's good?
Okay, yeah. So thanks for participating, and we really appreciate people who are brave. We appreciate all of you, anyways. Self-whip discipline, and we'll ask a survey because I want the answer to this question. The characters for good are really surprising. It's the character of a small animal, like a lamb, and it's over something called an altar. So when those words are together, what word comes to mind? Oh, Scott can hear now. Great. So lamb plus altar, what's the word? Yeah, Lisa. Yeah, hey, beefs. Yeah, more please. So lamb, altar, I see. Yep. Thanks, Intech. Yeah, so great. The word sacrifice. Yeah, so sacrifice is a really interesting word to find in Kaizen, because Kaizen is, Uncle Timmy's here. Kaizen it seemed to be a business term, but when we were in Japan, we kept seeing something deeper about change good. And we wondered if it was the culture. We wondered if it was just, hey, happened to be there studying what they're doing. They might wanted to look good, but it kept coming back to, this is the morally right thing to do. And then when I learned from Brad, well, in the word, now in the Chinese characters that people in Japan use, these characters are 3,000 years old. So the idea of lamb, altar, so equaling sacrifice. So why? And please put in the text or the chat line, whatever that is. Why does lamb plus altar equal sacrifice? Why is that? Why did several people go, yeah, that's sacrifice? What do we know is going to happen to that lamb? Go ahead and chat it in. Yeah, biblical reference. Yeah. Yeah, it'll die. It will die. Give up his life. Yeah, really good, Adam. Yep. Give up his life. That's actually really, yeah. So I don't want to gross you out. Yeah, you're gonna eat or die. Yeah, something bad's happening. So in biblical history, this lamb is usually something that's perfect and pure, and it's going to bleed or die over an altar for the bad parts, the sin of somebody else. So that's why it's such a loaded word. Yeah, older than biblical. Yeah, of course. Yes. In this case here, the question for you is, and we'll send you off into another breakout, is there's probably somebody in your life that sacrificed for you, and we don't have to necessarily, Anna Meek's here, cool. It doesn't have to be just a parent. I want you to think and actually picture a person where you can say, this person, they actually bled for me. They gave up part of their life so that I could be me. And with that, we'll turn it over to Tucker to get you into the next breakout room.
Real quick before we move on. So we'd love it if one or two people were willing to share like a story of sacrifice, someone bleeding for you. If you have a cool story you're willing to share to the rest of us, and otherwise chatting the answer of the primary motivator of the sacrifice. Is it for love or for money? But if there's anyone that wants to share a story that's more in detail, the floor is yours. And I'll have a minute of awkward silence otherwise. Cool. No worries. No worries at all.
I'll jump in. Yeah, Tucker, Jeff. We were challenged in our group to step outside of the parental role, and for the love and sacrifice, to make us hopefully good people, and what like our fathers and mothers in terms of working and what they did to make our family a good place. So trying to get beyond that was wrapping our heads around beyond that was a little bit of a challenge. So at least there's a little bit of what are we, room 12. So
there you go. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that was the we had one individual who didn't make it to a group room, so we just chatted, and that was the same thing we talked about. Is your sacrifice for your kids as parents. It's pretty powerful, or the other way around. Yeah, really cool. Thank you for sharing. And except for Christy gave a more explicit. It's love, but an actual interest in your success, which I really like, because it's not just like I love my kids or whatever. It's also like it's that motivation of like I actually care what's best for them and their success, and so it's an extra bit of motivation. I like that, Christy. Anyone else want to add? Go for it, Mark.
I think it's important to grasp that it isn't sacrifice if there's an expectation of return, because then it's transactional. And
beautiful.
If you think you're sacrificing with an expectation of return, you're a martyr.
Brutal. That's really good, Mark.
We talked about in our group, not only the parental part, but when you have a great leader, a leader that will stand by their people, if when the team might make a mistake and they'll take the fall, but you can see it in a great leader, the sacrifice that they'll make for their team.
And that kind of coincides with what our group was talking about, that there needs to be a sense of safety and trust within a workplace in order to sacrifice for each other. There has to be that trust and that safety. Yeah,
those are really good ads, guys.
When I was in school in the ROTC building, a couple of us went through a book of all of the Second World War and Medal of Honor citations. And half of them start with words like "in spite of his mortal wounds." You realize the sacrifice that was being made under those conditions to save others.
That's awesome. Jeff, you're on mute, but I'd like you to unmute and then tie this all back together.
I'm on mute and I'm crying over here, so it might be hard to freaking talk. Those of you who know me, sorry. Christy, Cuddy, thanks for jumping in. And so we find that this discussion around Kaizen really frequently when people visit us, it gets stuck around the idea of how much money do you make? What is the form you use? And we really want all of the people that we're speaking to say, hey, what is the reason behind it? And we really want to focus in on, hey, the word Kaizen is built on two pillars, one of discipline and one of sacrifice. And at least this group and the 40,000 people that toured us before you all came up and said it's mostly love. It's love of craft, love of a person, love of a country, love of a mission. And so when we say Kaizen, we mean create a better world. Yeah, really great, Mark. And the opportunity to even spend time with you is such a blessing for us. You might think we're doing it for you, but part of our discussion is I can't believe we get to see some of our friends and be together even in the time that we have today. So with that, I think we're going to jump into the what and the how part of this. Is that right, Tuck?
Yeah.
Great.
So when we've been planning for this, we decided to not just talk about inspirational why and then leave you with nothing that's maybe more concrete. And we had a couple options. There's the Kaizen share, which we usually do for tours, which is interesting for sure. And but it can be seen very transactional as we talked about just a minute ago, and we don't want that. So we're actually going to role play a Kaizen that I'm in the process of writing. It's not fully done yet, though I could probably walk it today, but Jeff's going to be my mentor on this one. So, which is good because it's actually a home Kaizen. So maybe he can give me some fatherly advice. We'll see. All right, Jeff. Jeff, I have a Kaizen. I think you're actually a pretty good person to help me with. If you have some time to do that right now.
Yeah, I got some time right now. Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. Let's do it. So I'm working from home like 1 or 2 days a week, and I keep getting interrupted by your grandchildren, Eloise and Lillian. It's driving me nuts. So my problem statement here is while working in the garage, Eloise and Lillian interrupt me like 5 times a day. It drives me nuts. So,
and why is that a problem? They're beautiful kids, and they're designed to interrupt you. Like, I'm not sure that's a problem.
I know. Well, because it's really distracting. I'm very distractible, as those who on this call may probably know. So it becomes really problematic because I'm trying to get my work done. As I almost fell out of my chair here. So
there you go. Okay.
So that's the problem.
I'm still not sure that's a problem. Maybe the thing that they have for you is more important than whatever you think you're working on. So
they're pretty important. But okay, fine. So the specific problem that I was running into with this instance where I had enough was I was trying to finish this project that was really important that needed my attention. So basically I think my problem maybe more is I'm unable to finish my frame growth pathways project that I was trying to get done at that time back in December.
Oh, so you're saying you couldn't get your work done?
Yeah, specifically that thing, which I had committed to my boss about, which is not ideal.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So I hear you saying I couldn't get important work done, and I risked not keeping my word to a leader.
Yeah. I'll add that because I didn't even think about
that. Okay. That seems like a problem. So did you? So that I'm in now. Okay. So did you take the time to quantify the waste? Does this happen every day, every week, every month? Let's use this as an example.
Yeah. So basically, it's waiting. I'm finding some waiting waste because basically I'm 5 minutes a day. They just wander in like they discovered this brand new world. They're like, "Whoa, Dad's home." So it's 5 minutes per day and about twice a week for 51 weeks. That's like 2,550 minutes. So it kind of works out to be. So, and then obviously defect may be a safety risk because there's a lot of dangerous things in our garage that they could like get into if I'm like, they'll handle it themselves, which I have done that and it doesn't go well. Thankfully I haven't hurt themselves, but it's a risk. So.
Okay. Does it cause you any rework?
Oh yeah, definitely rework, which is processing waste for those keeping track at home.
Okay. Do you know if anybody else in the company is experiencing this as they work from home, or are you the only one?
That's a good question. Since there aren't too many people working from home, April does and Matt do. Oh, Matt maybe would. He probably has it worse because I think his wife works, so that he has no goalie. So
hello.
Maybe Matt.
Hello, Lily. Can you?
Let's go ahead and mute that. Yeah.
That was good practice. Was that Eloise?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like you might be onto something that other people are experiencing.
Yeah.
Maybe you could talk to them and see if they have a similar. Yeah. Cool.
I'm gonna add that so I don't forget.
Okay.
Good.
So what do we think the root cause is? So.
Well, yeah. So I asked a few series of whys. The reason why I can't get my work done is because my train of thought gets derailed, which is not hard to do. And then why my girls interrupt me 5 times a day when I work at home. Why they see me every once in a while, and then or like they remember like, oh, Dad's home, so then they like periodically just come check. Why is they're excited because it's something new, and then also I don't have anything that's like really stop them. Because I can't lock myself in the garage, because then I'll be trapped, and I need to be able to like use the facilities and things. But that's a big contributor. Basically, I don't have a way of stopping them besides the door. Open. They're pretty strong, as you know.
Okay.
So
So I'm going to step out of the role playing, just let everybody know. At this point, I would sign off as a mentor and say, hey, Tuck, this sounds like a good problem for you to work on. And my encouragement would be for Tuck to talk to a few other people in the organization, because the purpose of this is to expand our problem solving skills, but more importantly, it's to build relationships with other people inside of our org, so that we know that we're not alone on some of these problems. So normally what would happen is Tucker would go work on that, and he might approach me in days, weeks, or maybe even months if it's complicated, and then we'll do the next part real quick. So yeah.
Which hopefully not months, even if it's complicated, because hopefully we'd still talk about it. But
yeah, but the reality is
but there's reality that it usually goes to the back burner. Just not ideal. Okay, so I'd come back to you, Jeff. Do you have a time to walk the Kaizen that we were talking about with Eloise and Lillian driving me nuts?
Yeah, I don't really remember it, but yeah, let's do that.
Okay, and then I'd rewalk it with Jeff to jog his memory, or at least the problem statement.
Yeah, why don't you read the problem statement again?
Okay,
now that
there you go. I was unable to finish the frame growth pathways project I was working on, and I was not keeping my word to Ken.
Okay, yeah, I remember that one. Oh yeah, sure. Okay, so
wow,
what kind of measures? What kind of measures did you consider?
Well, today's fix, which is the first thing we have to figure out, was I just yelled to my wife. It's like, Hannah, they're in here again, really a lot louder. Don't want to burst your eardrums, but number one, I could also for preventive action, I could do nothing. Wasn't going to do that.
Just hope
I could no longer work from home, which would be sad because it's a nice little bonus of COVID. I could become a stay-at-home dad, just go all in, just be like, you know what, screw it, Hannah, you go get a job. I'm gonna take over from here, and then go to work, but sneak in through the garage so they think I'm gone.
Nice.
So, and then I'd have to figure out some other things like food and water and facilities, but that's an option. Or create a green and red door system. Because when I was thinking about it some more, and I was walking with Matt, I realized, like, okay, there's nothing like at Kaas when I'm having a focus, I just point at like a red sign because we have a visual management system. But I don't have anything like that. And so I found some green, and I tested this before even walking with you because I wanted to see if it would even work, if they could even tell what green and red is, because they're 4 and 2. But sure enough, they did remember green and red. I found the rectangles of construction paper that are green and red. So I think I want to try that, train them, create some standard work, maybe a QR code for them to pull up with their iPads. Okay. And so yeah, that's the direction I think we should go, because it's the simplest, and it makes kind of the work a little visual. I think it might solve the problem. So
how did you rule out the other countermeasures?
Well, because working from home is very if depending on the work that I have, it's very enjoyable to like just focus on like this project that I was working on. Like ideally, if I wasn't dealing with interruptions, it would be a really good thing to do from home. I like working too much to be a stay-at-home dad. That wouldn't really work. That would cause other problems. And then going to work but sneaking through the garage. Yeah, that's probably my second option. If this doesn't work, it adds a lot of complexity. So I think I want to go to a simple solution. Just trying a visual management system. So
okay, so this would be, I'm stepping out of the role playing again. Sorry if this is boring you all, but you can all leave or eat some pretzels or something. So this would be a time where I'd say, hey, Tuck, that sounds like you have something worth experimenting on, and let me know how it goes. So I'd sign off on that, and Tucker would go run his experiment, and I would see him again, and this would be the last step.
Yeah,
and let's assume it's successful, just so we can get on to Q&R.
Yeah, basically what I would do is walk it from top to bottom, and then you'd check it, and then I'd maybe show you some photos of it working, and show some evidence, some standard work and stuff like that, and then we'd walk it. That part is usually kind of anticlimactic because it should just go well and be like, yep, that works, awesome, good job. And then I would submit this into HR, and they'd control it, and I'd get 30 minutes of paid time off, maybe to spend with those girls who are wanting to hang out. So yeah, that is that. I am going to put in the chat. Oops, sorry. I almost said this to just one person. These are examples of problem statements, problems that we've solved together over the last year. There's obviously like hundreds more, but just to give some context, because it can become this like mystery thing, but these are ones that I thought were good examples that like are very descriptive of like, can't finish this part, or, you know, we have a defect here or whatever. So yeah, that's that. All right, I think next, I'm going to also share the form, but it's going to take me a second to figure out how to add a file. And so now we're going to open up for Q&A, or Q&R, sorry, question and response, for the next 10 minutes or so. So Jeff and Mark are here as kind of panelists. So if anyone wants to ask a question out loud to anyone, or go ahead and put something in the chat, that'd be awesome. And I'll read them out. And Scott has another. See, this is good. I'm glad I brought it up. Scott has a good countermeasure to consider instead of using paper. Maybe some other options around the house. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I see that Janelle noted, and is for sure the
Yes.
hardest thing is getting a problem statement correct.
Yeah, which is
almost,
funny because
almost all of us, yeah.
That happened this morning when we were looking for a Kaizen to do this with. I read it out. I was like, that's a root cause. So this is perfect. This will show the actual process of how it happens. The solution there we found is, go ahead.
Yeah, just two things, not a question as much as just an observation about the role play. I thought that Jeff as a mentor did a great job asking questions, not having answers, but asking questions to guide you, Tucker, in your thinking. And Tucker, I thought you did a great job demonstrating ownership of the problem. You weren't giving it to Jeff. You weren't asking for him to solve it. You did the research of how often it happens. You thought of the creative ways to deal with it. So I thought it was a nice demonstration of a role of a mentor and someone who wants to embrace Kaizen and own that responsibility.
Thank you.
Thanks for that.
I think one of the ways to make it a little bit better for the problem statements, because that is where people get hung up, is doing it together as a team. So like, this is a good example. It took us like this morning, like 10 seconds or maybe 20 to figure out what the actual problem was. So it's much better to do outside of yourself, is what we found. So Eric, I think you were about to talk. We talked over each other.
Well, I appreciate that Terry mentioned like the ownership of the problem kind of stayed with you, Tucker, through that lens. But it has me reflecting on Kaizen and the notion of the discipline and sacrifice piece. I wonder if there is a subtlety there, because I can think of a lot of leaders who will identify with the notion of self-sacrifice and discipline, but are doing so in a way that's not growing their people. They're just taking on their people's problems, and that's not actually growing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is a big deal. Yeah, this is the core. Yeah.
This
Go for it,
is
Mark.
this is the core, because, and I can kind of tie this into Jordan's question in the chat as well. If it's the second the leader, I had a great example is to cut the story short, I noticed a Kanban out of place. I let the supervisor know. He started to take a step to pick it up off the floor and put it in the post, and I stopped him and I asked him, whose job is it to put the Kanban in the Kanban post? Well, it's the welder's job. Well, the minute you do it, it's your job. And it's it's easier just to do it yourself. It's easier to give people the answers. It's easier to tell them what to do, but they don't grow, they don't learn, and then they come to rely on you for the answers. And that's not the position you want to be in, because that's not developing your people, and that's not giving them the sacrifice of your time to grow them. Because you're, as a leader, your job is Kaizen on the people. Their job is Kaizen on the process.
Ooh, that's worth the price of admission, people. Just what he said there. The leader's job is Kaizen on. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, Eric,
I'd like
does
to,
that?
Yeah,
go for it. Yeah.
I'd like to address Jordan's question. How does it affect standard work? And it's a yin and yang. Standard work is the foundation for Kaizen. You can't have Kaizen without it. But a standard is a point of comparison. It is to say, do we know what should be happening that we can compare to what is actually happening? And that's by the team, for the team. So if you are writing hard procedures and then putting them in binders and issuing them to people, you are not doing standard work, you're writing procedures. It's a fundamental difference.
Goes out of date pretty fast. Yeah, that's a good point.
So
I'll make sure I understand what Mark's saying. You're saying it, well, you say it another way, meaning, so if I have a leader, I'm writing standard, or if I'm writing a procedure, I'm writing a procedure. You're saying it's different to do standard work. I'll make sure I understand that point.
It is different.
Okay. I understand. How is it different?
First is that typically if I'm writing procedures, it's coming from a much higher level than what the work is being done. So certainly I have to create rules. I have to say, here are the specific things that must be done specific ways so that the people who are developing their standard work know what they have to do and how they have to do it. But the sequence of work, the content may be specified, but the sequence has to be kind of done by the team where they can't make any improvements. So if I were to look in the world, the team develops their standard work with the guidance of David Marquet put it really well. Don't break the Legos, right? You can put the Legos together any way you want, but the Legos are the things that you have to do. But there's thousands of ways to assemble the Legos, and it's the way the Legos are put together that is the standard work. And so you have to have the flexibility for the team to be able to experiment with new ways and the flexibility to allow them to quickly redocument and quickly reapply. But if it's got to be by the team, for the team, so that the team, as they're carrying out their tasks, can continuously and easily compare, are we following the way this should be? Or, oh my gosh, something just happened that we need to pay attention to. It got in our way. Because that's how standard work deteriorates in the first place, right? Something blocked the team member from carrying it out, and they end up working around it. They end up developing some little thing because they don't have the authority to say, whoa, stop what just happened. They just have to get the job done. And they just introduced a new task, a new piece of inventory, added a little time, oh, I just have to take these extra steps over here. Oh, I'll just go talk to John and get what I need. And you just reintroduced all that so-called waste you worked so hard to take out. That's how it got there in the first place. So they have to be able to detect the difference. And that's what it's actually for.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Mark. Appreciate it. I want to see if there's any other questions.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I just want to get in a couple more questions. If anyone has any questions about Kaizen, our process, or just Kaizen in general, anything that you've heard today.
I have a question. For people that feel like they don't have time to do Kaizens or don't have time to do Kata, like I'm too busy, is there something to help, I don't know, change their mind about that?
Lisa, that's a really good question. So part of the reason that we normally with a waste tour try to get everybody to just know what is the 7 waste and what are they, and how much is in our life. And we've done this with you before, so you know the routine, but once a human being knows how sick they are, then we can start looking at Kaizen as a way to become less sick. And Mark, you don't know this, but Lisa has been doing Kata with Tucker and doing some amazing work at Nordstrom through Kata, which we're so excited about. So what we found with Kaizen is when we see it as a way of using it as a reflection tool, or to provide relief. Like for me, when I get stressed out, I immediately double down on my own personal Kaizen work to say, okay, I'm freaked out right now. Like, it's not about standard work revealing something to me that I need to fix. It's usually something else that is my trigger or whatever. But to answer the question, especially in the world you live in, is when your team actually can learn and have the head knowledge, do you realize how much of your life is spent doing rework, waiting, searching? Then the next question is, if we really want to get back to the beginning of our conversation, is, are you morally okay being the person who squanders the talent that you've been given? Are you, and if you're a leader, are you morally okay squandering the talent that you're responsible for? And in the company you work, we're supposed to be supporting people. I mean, that's supposedly what Nordstrom's org chart's about. I can't think of a better way of supporting somebody than letting them know, hey, this waste thing hurts you, and I'm unwilling to be a leader who allows you to hurt yourself. So let's do this together. The fun thing about Kaizen, and a recommendation I would have for anybody, is do it on the stuff that's your own thing. Liberate yourself 1 minute a day by doing Kaizen, and pretty soon you have an hour a day to think about things like Kata. So really, it's an excuse. Our method is to start with the head. Do you know the 7 ways? Then the heart. Do you give a damn? And then the third part is, I'm willing to help you, but you have to come my way. I care enough about you and I know you care. And some of these are people with more authority, this is not about authority. So it was funny, like Tucker's Kaizen, it was really great because I'm talking about my son and my grandkids and how cool is that, but that's very typical of the Kaizens around here. It's a lot of them are personal ones to free our minds up, whatever. And so we try to make sure that motivation really is about that person. So yeah, and honestly, inviting people to events, or you can always call us and say, hey, we need to hang out and talk with our teams. So don't be alone in that. Is that cool? It's good to see you.
If leaders say they don't have time, something else is more important to them. And that's okay. But it's time to start just gently probing where their time goes. And you might discover that they would wish their time went somewhere else. And you might find an opportunity. And this is something that doesn't work every time, but it works better than things that never work. And you might find a way to empathetically engage that leader to work a little bit on their own day to create a window of time that they can actually sit down and think. I can't really think of a leader who wouldn't like that. They just don't have the clear headspace to try to create it. And that might be a way that you can help them, even if it's blocking and tackling and taking some of that load off of them sometimes, depending on the relationship you have.
That's awesome, Mark. Thank you for those final thoughts. Thank you for spending the last hour with us talking about Kaizen and improvement systems with us. Our next event that many of you are signed up for, if you're signed up, don't even worry about signing up again, but it's on 4/28. It'll be with a new secure link. And if you want to book a tour, we're doing tours. We're doing it also in person now that things are opening up. I got my first jab. I know Jeff and Oz have as well. And so we are kind of opening things back up and looking at kind of resuming tours, because it's been kind of a sad year without that in our life. So yeah, if you want to reach out, just let us know. Yeah, my email, you all have it at some point. So if you have any questions or need support or need us to talk some sense into some leaders, just send them our way. So yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you so much for coming, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
See ya.